Good morning, everyone. Beautiful morning. So we've been talking about the Sefirot, and the reason why we've been talking about the Sefirot is because we're in the Omer period, and during this period of 49 days, there's so many elements, and we've spoken about different elements of what the Omer is, but we work on refining a different part of our nature every single day of the Omer. One of the questions or comments that we got here in the class was, how do you make it practical? Now, what I think is, on an individual level, to understand the concepts of each of the Sefirot within Kabbalah, that is the building blocks of what you need to make it practical. So what I'm going to do today is something a little different. I'm going to assume that we all know the building blocks. And I'm going to go to the next level and try to make these very complicated Kabbalistic ideas a little more practical in your life. I'm going to try this and see what happens. Sometimes a person is inspired by ideas, inspired to do, or even inspired to complete. Such inspiration often leads to excitement, an excitement that transforms into a surge of enthusiasm, a surge of vitality, of stamina, swells of inspiration. And then, after you're so inspired and so up, and you feel like you're on top of the world, there's all of a sudden this low ebb. You just feel down. It's amazing how sometimes we can feel so up, so on top of the world, like we can do it, we can conquer the day. And then there's this low ebb. The enthusiasm, the vitality, the stamina, it eventually comes to an end and it leaves a void. And it's this void, within this void, that new inspiration can appear. So many people think, oh my gosh, I have these ups and downs, I have these lows and highs, it's too hard. Why can't I just have that even-keeled emotional level? If you can relate to this, I want to help you and teach you through the Sefirot how to be able to capture those lows and use them as a void for new inspiration. So, a new inspirational idea. You're in the low. You're not feeling like you're having a good day. It's just not working for you. A new inspirational idea, it generates enthusiasm. And when the idea is passed on into the analysis of comprehension, the enthusiasm has waned. So inspiration comes from that first glimmer, that first spark, that excitement. Everything new is exciting. The thing is that if you just stay in the inspiration mode, then you're not going to get anything done. I mean, there are people, very few, who can be successful constantly in inspiration mode. I mean, maybe they have really good teams of people and they just walk, they're the CEO, they walk into the room and they lay out all their inspiration, and all of a sudden there's these great little people or big people or that are just making it all happen for them. But generally speaking, for the rest of us, that's really hard. So chachma, Conception, that is inspiration. That is the inspirational faculty. You've moved to a new country, new faces, new language, new customs, new social structure. Everything is foreign. You feel like you're living in a social void. Days pass, weeks, months. You feel socially estranged. It just feels dark. You're in a void of social isolation. And then you meet someone who came from your home country. Somehow they're visiting, and there's an immediate swell of attraction. There's an attraction. You talk, you share experiences, you speak the same language, you have a similar background, you meet again. You start exploring the limits of your compatibility. It's an exciting experience, but the outcome is not yet known. How would you know? There's an uncertainty there. And as you continue talking, you may find that you share so many things in common: attitudes, experiences, tastes, and you're eager to meet again. And your eagerness grows. If you have little in common, what's going to happen is, even though at first there was this very, very exciting and enthusiasm, but eventually, because it was only because you were in a foreign place and you're connecting on a mutual idea that you come from a similar place with a similar language, but the interest will wane. You will, if you don't really have a lot in common, it'll be exciting for a minute, but then you're going to slide back into a social void. Now, imagine that you found many things in common with this person. And then all of a sudden, something different happens. Your interest grows, your attraction increases. You develop a real liking for this person. Your positive emotions swell. And then you find that you're meeting regularly, you're spending more time together. Eventually, you become close. Now, at that stage, you begin to take certain things for granted because the active emotional feelings are no longer there. So what happened? What happened? Why is it that so many people, after a certain amount of time in marriage or a certain amount of time in friendship, start taking those very powerful, that attraction, those emotional connections for granted? Now, the social void is gone, definitely. But your faculty of attraction has ceased its active function. It may still be functioning passively for a while, but you no longer feel that excitement in the heart because the initial attraction, the point of attraction, is it's supposed to be there initially. You can't expect it to be there forever. There will be passive levels of attraction throughout your life, but not to a level that you had when you first met. Attraction, like conception, is an inspirational faculty. You see what I'm doing here? I'm going down, for those of you who know the Sefirot, I'm going down the entire right side. Attraction and conception, they're inspirational. So when that inspiration has ceased its active function, it has to be replaced by something. It has to be that element that is going to continue to allow it to exist on a more subtle level for a longer time. And that's the idea of devotion. Now let's go to the next side. Sorry, let's go down. The next one, if you know, it's Chachma, Chesed, and then it is Netzach. Competition. Competition is exciting. It even engages the onlook. People love to watch the match. Masses of people gather to watch the competition, sporting events. Everybody wants to see who's going to win. Are you rooting for which team are you rooting for? And the competitors, they need to prepare maybe their entire life for the event. Extensive resources of time, of energy are spent training for a competition that may only last a few short minutes. The swelling spiral of excitement, of activity lead up to the event. This is it, the moment, the UFC challenge, the competition. And then, like that, it's all over. It's all over, leaving a sudden void and a need to wind down. What is competition? The idea of competing is a highly inspirational faculty. So we have conception, attraction, and competition. They are all on the complete right side of the Sefirot. All of those are your inspirational Sefirot. Now, a charismatic person knows exactly what to say. They know when to say it, and they know how to say it. The charismatic person is perceptive. They have a sensitivity, a feel for a person's needs. The charismatic person relates well to people. They're able to forge an association with a suitable mix of attraction and rejection as a balance. The charismatic person is articulate and communicates the correct message in the appropriate manner. So, what is the secret? The secret is the charismatic person needs to live in the middle. You see, if we always live, let's go back to how I started today. If we always live in inspiration, what's going to happen when we have those lows? Because we can't continuously be inspired at every moment. It's not fair. Nothing will ever get done. So what is the opposite? What is the opposite extreme? Maimonides says that if you want to change a habit, if you want to change a behavior, don't try to find the middle path. Find the opposite extreme. By going to the opposite extreme, you'll find the center. And that's essentially, in our process of growth, that's what we're trying to do. We're constantly trying to find our center. If you're someone who lacks inspiration, then the three faculties that I just spoke about, these are faculties that you're going to have to master. If you're the kind of person who's what they call it, an A type, where you can get it all done. Boom, 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 boom. You know, you're organized. You got lists. You got that. That is the left side. We'll talk about that soon. You're going to need to either one of two things. Either go to the opposite extreme and find inspiration, find that sense of wonder, go outside, look at the cherry blossoms on the trees now, it's spring, and say, wow, that's beautiful. Find that sense of wonder, find the inspiration, however you do it. If you're the kind of person who's constantly inspired, like everything I just said now, you said, that's me, that's me, that's me, then you're going to have to go to the opposite extreme. You're going to have to either, and you can do this yourself, or you can surround yourself with people who are able to do this with you. I didn't say for you, I said with you. You can surround yourself with people who can do this with you, because they will be the yin to your yang. They will balance out your inspiration. The greatest teams, for those of you who run teams and who have to manage teams, are groups of people who have these different qualities. They can't all be the extrovert, charismatic type, because then who's going to get the work done if everyone's just talking all day? The reality is that there's no person that has a continuous flow of new ideas all day, all the time. So inspiration, or conception, which is the inspiration of new ideas, doesn't even, for the greatest of people, deliver new ideas constantly. And it's highly unusual for anyone to have new ideas on schedule. That's why artists are the most sporadic with their schedule, because they're constantly living in a world of conception. They're constantly living in this world of inspiration, and they don't know when inspiration is gonna hit. You have an artist that can pull out 3 songs in a day and then have nothing for years, because that's the nature of inspiration. So imagine if you live, and I say this to the artists, if you live constantly trying to capture that inspiration, you could be waiting a long time for that, which is why you need the balance of those things that are stable, those things that are not just inspiration. Conception is not constant, it's not regular, it's not consistent. You may be very productive one day and then not productive for a month if you just live in the world of inspiration. It's possible for someone to schedule regular sessions for studying, for learning, kind of what we do here on Thursday mornings, for logical analysis, critical thinking, challenging ourselves. The person that loves inspiration needs to have time for comprehension, for analysis, for working things through. Actually, I'm going to say that even if it's not your nature, and even if it bothers you so much, that analysis and that analyzing and the comprehension, if you do that, you're going to have more inspiration. Because comprehension is constant and regular. Anyone that lives in a world with a lot of inspiration also needs things they do regularly. That's the secret. It's possible to create routines, even if you're a person who doesn't like routine. What's the opposite extreme of inspiration? Really encouraging routine. Let's say, going back to our study sessions, making sure that no matter what, as hard as it is, that you have a regular time to study, to analyze, that you do things and say, as hard as it is, for the next 3 hours, I am going to do this sequential exercise. I'm going to organize. I'm going to do the stuff that's not exciting and inspiring and maybe not even people-centered. And the reason why you're doing it is because if you're a person who lives in inspiration, it's going to make you more inspired. It doesn't make any sense. But the artist knows deep in their heart that you have to have the more confined, the more restricted you are, the better the art is. The more restricted you are, the better the inspiration. That's the secret of inspiration. You need to restrict it. You need to reject that which needs to be rejected. You need to submit to that which must be submitted to. That's the opposite side. Now, for some of us that are listening to this, you're like, yes, that's exactly, I'm good at that. Well, we'll talk about that at a different time. But to those of you who live in a world of art, inspiration, great ideas, and you feel like you're at a writer's block, or you're at a point where you just can't get it out, it's not working no matter what you do, you need routine. Within that constriction, within that routine, you're going to find the inspiration. So, the attraction that you felt for your newly found friend in a foreign land long ago, you're still friends. You're still very close friends. You still meet regularly and constantly, but the attraction is gone, and that's okay. The emotion is dissipated. Remember, attraction is not a constant emotion. So what worked on the first date, or what worked on the first meeting, if you don't learn how to allow it to expand and allow that relationship to develop, then it's not going to develop. There are so many couples, so many great dates that go wrong because really what people do is they have a first date over and over again for a long time until they date to death, until there's nothing to date anymore. They think that, oh, what do you mean? We just went on our 10th date. No, it wasn't. It was just date 1 10 times. That wasn't the 10th date. Relationships need to develop. They need that consistency. Attraction is good, but attraction is only good for as long as it lasts, for as long as the inspiration lasts. So if you meet somebody new and you come back and you're so inspired and you're so excited, live in it. It's good. It's a good feeling. But check it, because it's not going to last. And then when it dissipates, you have to ask yourself, how do I sustain this relationship? One of the things that I do, and I'm very cognizant of, with a divorce rate that's so high today, is I do a lot of weddings. And I spend as much time as I can with the couples that I marry, because I want to make sure that they have a toolbox and set them up for a long-lasting and healthy relationship. I feel like it's my job as a rabbi. I'm the first line of defense. And there's so many little things that become big things. And if there's not proper communication, if there's not proper tools, then the relationship can wane. Relationships don't just happen. They take constant, consistent work. Now, There are some people who hear that and they're like, what do I need that for? I'd rather just have one-day relationships. That way I can continue getting inspired and living in the world of inspiration all day. So here's what happens if you continue to live in a world of one-night stands and inspiration all day. A, you become so used to that thrill that you become a thrill seeker. And B, and most important, is you never have the opportunity to experience the joy and the emotional relaxation of what a long-term relationship and what long-term love looks like. So yeah, to get into the relationship, you need that. But if you become a thrill seeker and you're constantly just looking for inspiration, you miss the point. That's a lot of what our relationships in today's world have come to. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Maybe we don't have role models for relationships anymore. Maybe we spend a lot of time with rom-coms. We're watching too many 2-hour movies. And what ends up happening is if you want a 2-hour relationship, watch a 2-hour movie, right? It's the beginning, the middle, and the end all in 2 hours. We don't realize that there's a lot of subconscious messages in the media, in film, in a lot of the conversations that we're having. I consider film a conversation because it becomes a subconscious internal dialogue. We are affected by it. We're affected by music. We're affected by the arts. We are affected by all those things that we attach ourselves to and we spend our time with. Sometimes you think, well, what do you mean? I just wanted to tune out. It's just passive. I'm happy for you. You can tune out. There's no problem. You can have that passive experience. You should just know that you will be affected by what you're exposed to. And so if you spend your time constantly reinforcing the rom-com, it is going to affect you. If you spend your time swiping left and right, it's going to affect you. If you spend your time thrill seeking, then it's going to affect you. The anecdote of a thrill seeker is routine. It's really hard because thrill is addictive. So like any other addiction, you'd have to have, I think there needs to be, TA, Thrill Anonymous. The same way you have everything else, you need to understand. Now, there are people who live like this for many years because it's not overtly inhibiting. But if your values, and this is really where it boils down to, if your value is, or if you feel like your highs are getting higher and your lows are getting lower, it's because you're spending too much time in the world of inspiration and not enough time in the world of that very solid groundedness, the structure, the routine. Which is why in the Torah, when it comes to mitzvahs, giving 5 cents a day is better than giving $1 a week or $4 a month. Routine. Train yourself to give every day. Praying 1 prayer a day is better than 7 prayers a week or 30 prayers once a month. Studying 5 minutes a day is better than 30 minutes a week or 2 hours a month or even an hour a week. That consistency, and I can tell you, I am a person who lives in the world of inspiration. And it's taken me years, and I constantly fight that. I'm constantly trying to figure out how to create that consistency. And it doesn't take long. You see, again, because somehow our world is a world of extremes, and we feel like, oh, well, if I can't do it right, I can't do it, or this is not. I'm talking about, I just said three things there. All those three things can take you 10 minutes a day. Put a nickel in the charity box, pray for 5 minutes, study for 5 minutes. Do it the same time every single day for a week. 10 minutes a day. We're not talking about hours. You don't have to do hours a day. 10 minutes a day is more valuable than 2 hours once a week. That's how my daily Jewish thought of 5 minutes of study started every day. Because I said, let's just do 5 minutes a day. And there's also a beauty if you really, really, I mean, just doing 10 minutes a day whenever you do it, that's great. If you want to go a step further, do it the same time every day. Now, for some people, I'm speaking to the choir. You're like, yes, this is exactly what I love. If you are like cringing at this, this is who I'm speaking to, because I cringe at this. I understand you. I live in a world where I just want, I like the freedom. I like to be able to go. Yesterday, I was in the middle of something. I was getting sucked into a very, very deep thing that I had to get done, and I just went for a walk for 10 minutes. Just constantly not getting sucked in. That's what it's about. If you find yourself saying things like, life's too short to only speak to speak to people who I don't agree with, then you miss the point. Fight that nature. Learn from people who you don't agree with, because you'll learn a lot more than living in an echo chamber, than living in the bubble. That's the nature that Kabbalah is trying to teach us, of the balance of emotions. You want to truly be inspired? Find the balance between those three. Find the balance between inspiration and between that structure, the comprehension, the working through. I have so much more I want to talk about on this nature, on this topic, but I see the time and I see a lot of questions. And so I'm going to stop here for now. And I'm going to turn off the recording. So if you're listening to this recording and you weren't here in person, come join us in person. 9 o'clock in the mornings Eastern on Thursday, almost every Thursday. And if you're just going to be tuning off now, have a wonderful, beautiful, beautiful day.